All right, we are back here talking Clone Wars. Sky Guys, season number 3 in the books. We have watched now 66 episodes of Clone Wars. First up today, Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I have to tell you, nothing like the present to finish up a season. I did about 12 episodes in 2 days. So we're rock and rolling. It's fresh in the head. I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, just a little behind the scenes, a little inside baseball on the podcast here. Nick and I, you're at the same pace. We finished up, I think, the end of March. Pete finished about 12 hours before recording.
Love it.
But
how it is.
It's also benefits Pete, though, because Pete's got stuff more fresh in mind than I do, where I have to go back and look up some things.
Super fresh.
Also with me today, we talked about Snyder Cut last week. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. Very excited to talk about this season. I know we talked a lot about this one off the air because I tried my best to keep the same schedule as you. So we watched the same two pretty much each day. So I know how you feel about it. You know how I feel about it already. And I'm excited to get into it. And we have some good things coming to an end this season. And I've told you both before, I think this is the last intro season to the show. So I'm excited to get into the what I really think it gets really good, which is like season 4 and 5.
Yeah, and I want to say, first off, I want to give us a little congratulations here. We finished about half the show now. So we have, the last 4 seasons, about the 67 episodes, about 66. So about 11 minutes into the next episode, we are halfway through Clone Wars.
It's really crazy to think because I feel like nothing's happened when I think of the Clone Wars. Like the stuff that I think of, none of it's happened yet, and we're already halfway done.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And Pete, since you were the most fresh takes on the season, you really just finished it. What are your general thoughts on season 3?
I really liked it. I didn't feel like there was a lot of filler episodes. There might have been a couple in there, but I didn't think of it as a half filler, half not, like I did maybe for seasons 1 and 2. We got a little bit more information that I kind of thought we would get. I think, as Nick was alluding to, season 4 and 5 is where a lot of the stuff that he believes is like the good stuff of the whole series is coming up. It seems like it's setting up a lot. So I probably sound like a broken record because I've said that for season 1 and 2, that keeps setting up. Hopefully that this is the last setup season. I take Nick's word, obviously, about it because he's seen it, so that we can actually get into the nitty gritty of the series.
Yeah, I different opinion than you here. I was slightly down on this one compared to season 2. I had some issues with season 3. I will get into them throughout the podcast today. I mean, it was fine. I was not expecting the progression to go. The movie stinks. 1's okay. 2 was really good. 3 was kind of back in that okay territory for me. It was not like a continued progression. That's where I feel about it. Nick, how about you?
Overall, I like the season. I have some nitpicks with it, but I'm going to save them when we get a little bit later on into the podcast because there's a few points that I know you're going to make that I kind of disagree with, that I want to use my negatives then. So I'm going to hold off there. But I will say, I think, we've talked about this off the air. Mike, you have a lot to say about this season, and I feel like, and I know you're the host of the Just End the Suffering podcast, but tonight, for the Sky Guys, you are not the host. You will be the host, but a lot of the questions are going to be directed to you because you have a strong feeling on one arc specifically, and that arc, we're going to have to hear your opinion. You're not going to be asking for mine.
I'm going to ask you yours, but I'll be giving mine a lot more. So
yeah, this is your time to shine. You've been asking the questions for how many years now? This is your time the audience is going to hear what you think right now.
They will. We'll get to that one. But first, I want to start out here with the cameos. And I think if it's the subtitle of the season is Secrets Revealed, I think the subtitle of the season really should have been how many cameos we squeeze into one season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, because I feel like every other episode there was some cameo from a character that was in the movies we hadn't seen yet in there. Off the top of my head, I have a couple written down here. We had Greedo pop up. We had Qui-Gon Jinn and Shmi Skywalker pop up, both in the Mortis arc. We had Jabba pop up. We had Chewie pop up, obviously in the season finale. Cy Snoodles popped up from the Max Rebo band. She pops up in here too. I mean, Pete, if you love your cameos, this is all for you.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Qui-Gon Jinn and Shmi Skywalker is probably the top for me. Chewbacca also as well. Greedo was nice to see. Cy Snoodles was nice to see, I guess, in a way. But overall, the cameos kind of connected me, right? So when I started watching this show, it was okay, this is happening after episode 2, within episode 2, and it's going to start coming into episode 3. It have the characters that I know, fine. Now these cameos start bringing in characters from previous episodes, characters from later episodes. And I think that just kind of ties together this series a little bit more for me when thinking about the Star Wars universe. It's not separated for me anymore. Granted, the cameos were just cameos. It's not like they're major players in this season where it's only maybe a 1 or 2 episode thing. However, I really think this kind of made it a more well-rounded season for me so I can connect different episodes and other storylines from the Star Wars franchise into this series.
Yeah, so I remember in our last podcast, Nick was saying there's a big cameo in season 2. He's going to be season 3 is one of my MVPs. And I was talking to Nick. I feel like I realized, I'm like, is this the cameo? He's like, no, I forgot this guy was in here. And I feel like you guys had so many good options for cameos here. And you were right that Chewie was probably your best pick for cameos, but there were so many. I just losing track at one point.
Well, for me, when I said that, I think I kind of put a bad perception in your mind because I said there's a big cameo, so you were just waiting for it, and it happened to be in the last episode, and I forgot about 4 other huge ones. So I think I kind of agree with Pete. I think it brings everything together and it keeps you engaged. But I can see why you specifically would be, I don't want to say disappointed, but like kind of let down because you keep oh, it's Greedo, that's the one you were talking about, oh, it's Qui-Gon, and it's like, when is it? It's keep happening. So I think if I didn't say anything, you would have enjoyed those cameos more.
Yeah, I think for me, there were a couple I loved. I got Pete said, I think the Qui-Gon and Shmi ones are probably the 2 best cameos of the bunch. I thought Chewie was a little shoehorned because they just threw him in there because, like, oh, he just got captured and he's going to help them escape. I think those 2 were good. I think the couple of them felt a little fan servicey to me. I get it's just Star Wars. We want to be fan servicey. We want to say, hey, it's all connected to steal from Marvel. But at the same time, like, I felt like there were points of all the cameos are taking away from our main characters of the show. That was my issue with the overuse of cameos.
I don't disagree with you. I don't. Yeah, I completely agree with the way you said with Chewie. Like, they kind of just threw it in there. He gets captured. Although I will say his capture was a lot better executed than his capture in episode 9. But anything was better than episode 9. So yeah, overall there were a lot of cameos, and maybe that takes away, but overall it brings things together. And as Pete said, I don't think they're really like the main attraction of the season or the episodes that they're in. And it's just kind of like someone shows up. And also I think one you're missing, I think we're going to get into in the next arc. One cameo that you may be missing.
Well, I saved him.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I saved him because he's specific to one arc. Let's look at kind of the big arcs in the season. Nick's favorite arc here. The arc where Count Dooku is ordered to kill Asajj Ventress. She escapes. And then we get the creation of Savage Opress, the new, at least for an episode, apprentice to Count Dooku. We have a little bit of exploration into the backstory of Darth Maul and his race. And Nick, I know loves arcs. So Pete, I want to start with you. What did you think of that arc?
I think that arc was the most interesting. I think it's also the most important in terms of setting up a lot more in the future. But I also think that another arc is more important about character development of a character we know. We won't get into it yet because we're talking about this one, but I think this arc was very, very clever. I think it's a great sort of like, we're Sith, I'm going to use my hate to revenge. It just kind of plays the part of a Sith Lord or a Sith apprentice. Kind of also gives you the inner workings of what Count Dooku wants to do also as well. I like this arc probably the best out of the entire series. Nick, if this was your favorite as well, Mike, this was really, really cool to see kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, Nick, I think also with this arc thing I liked about it is that we got to focus on the villains, which you almost never get in Star Wars. A lot is always told through the hero's perspective of, okay, here's what's going to happen with the Skywalkers, who's got with Obi-Wan or Ahsoka in Clone Wars. Here we basically had 3 episodes where, apart from Anakin and Obi-Wan showing up in the beginning to fight Ventress before she gets killed off, I mean, like, and a little bit in the end, we don't really get much of them. This is a villain story with Ventress in the lead. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I didn't think of that. I didn't think of how that was executed, but you're absolutely right. And this arc is just so cool because for so many different reasons, as you mentioned, Darth Maul's backstory, and I just got to say it now. I mean, Savage is no other word to describe him. He's a savage. That's why his name is Savage. He is the man. He is such a cool character. He's like a Darth Maul, a little more, I guess more bulky, a little bigger of a guy. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same thing. And Darth Maul, who doesn't love Darth Maul? I mean, I just loved the arc. I was really excited to see what happens with Savage Opress. And then at the end of that arc, we see a little silhouette, little picture of our friend Darth Maul. So apparently he's alive.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen Solo, he survived somehow, but you'll get more into that, I'm assuming, in future seasons.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of Maul, and we're gonna see a lot of the stuff that we saw in The Mandalorian that made us watch this show to begin with on this podcast, like the Darksaber and Mandalore and Bo-Katan and Maul's also in Rebels and Solo. So, he has a long story that's still ahead of him. So I'm excited to get him back in the mix.
Yeah, it'd be good to get him back in the mix. And I do think I'll also want to say Savage Opress. I get the challenge of him because it's sort of like the Superman problem where like he's so powerful. Like, how do you keep him in the story? Whereas he's just sort of wrecking Anakin and Obi-Wan the first time he sees them. So I get why they sort of send him off on a quest for the rest of this season. I think that would make some sense, Pete.
Yeah, I agree. When you have a roided up Darth Maul, I don't think it's best to just try to keep him around and try to make him, calm. I think the character, the mother, I think she does the right thing by saying, "Hey, go find Darth Maul. Get trained by this man. He is like you. He can teach you the ways to harness the dark side the correct way and even more powerful than what you're doing." And I think that takes it off the mother's plate, but it also kind of helps Savage maybe calm down and go, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because we see Savage gets frustrated a lot. And I think that's his downfall. So knowing that there is someone out there that can train him, he probably takes a little bit of solace in that, or calmness in that, I should say, and decides, okay, I will go peacefully without wrecking your entire camp here.
Yeah, that makes some sense. And since Nick brought Mandalore up, we should go to Mandalore next for the arc. I mean, this is one that like I watched it almost a month ago at this point, so like it's not as fresh when I had to refresh it. But looking back on it, I did see I thought this was an interesting arc here because we get more of the political intrigue behind the scenes of Mandalore. We got a potential coup from the mix here. We got hints that there's stuff going on in the background. And Nick, I think I like this Mandalore arc. Not as much as the one from season 2. I think it was a good little setup for more stuff.
Yeah, not as good as the one from season 2. A good arc. It was. I know this is going to sound strange, but it was very easy to follow. I feel like a lot of these episodes, some of them, I like the show, of course, but a lot of these episodes are very hard to follow. They're boring. A lot of them is like, how many minutes left? And it doesn't mean that doesn't take away from me liking the show or anything, because a lot of them are great. But these episodes, I feel like, are just very easy to follow. The story is very clear. A lot of them. If you notice, a lot of these episodes are kind of hitting close to home with like viruses and stuff.
Yes.
It's kind of funny how that works out. But yeah, and also before we move on, I want to mention something about the Savage Opress arc, is that you see Dathomir finally. It's the first time we've seen the planet. We've heard about it. We know that's where Darth Maul's from. He mentions it in Solo to Emilia Clarke's character, Kiara. He says, meet me on Dathomir. And it's like, we never saw this place. We finally see it. And if you play, I know, Mike, you're going to get to it. If you play Fallen Order, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, you go there and you see Mother Talzin there. And you get a little more, you see the Night Brothers and the Night Sisters and all that Savage Opress Darth Maul stuff. That's cool that they, this is kind of where it started, all that stuff. So a lot of that game has to do with Clone Wars. So that's a recommended game. But anyway, back to Mandalore is, like I said, a very easy episode to follow. And I just enjoy that. I think that, it's something that just grabs my attention right away because it's like a little mystery kind of thing. And then you find out it's the, what is it, the Prime Minister?
I think it's the Prime Minister, yes.
That's okay. Yeah, it's a very easy arc to follow and something I enjoyed.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Pete, what did you
think? Short arc. I believe only 2 episodes, which is good.
Pete, thoughts on Mandalore?
Yeah, I like Nick was saying, easy to follow, a relaxed kind of watch. It doesn't really make you think that hard. Just kind of puts it up there. You watch it, you gain the information. I like the buildup of Mandalore a little bit and the politics there. I can say the same about the rest of the series when more politics are brought up when it doesn't have to do with Mandalore, and I'm sure we'll get to that too. But if we don't, I think all the political talk is very important to understand how twisted the emperor or the chancellor can be when it comes to swaying his followers toward a correct route, or even showing like, yeah, I back the republic, to really like, cover his butt. So easy arc, gives me a lot of information about Mandalore that I didn't have prior, so I'll take it.
I also say this is one of Ahsoka's best arcs of the season, because the way she executes the plan to expose who the mastermind of the conspiracy is a good, very well done.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ahsoka has a couple of arcs, and Nick, you can piggyback on this as well, I'm sure, because you know a lot more about Ahsoka Tano than I do. But she has a couple arcs in the series that kind of shows her worth alone, without her Jedi Master Anakin Skywalker. So yeah, kudos to Ahsoka Tano in this series.
Yeah, we'll get into our MVPs and whatnot later, but I gotta say, Ahsoka went from, we all watched that movie, we all wanted to strangle her. She was terrible, and she's a great character already. And we're not even, as you mentioned, not even halfway into the show. And I think I think I can speak for everyone here that we like Ahsoka. She's a good character now.
Yeah, she's getting a lot better.
Yeah, it's just a quick turnaround with her. And before we move on, I want to mention, because Pete, you had mentioned the politics and stuff like that. And my favorite episode of this entire show, and I'm not saying it's the best episode, but my favorite episode of the entire show is episode 10 of this season, when Padme and Ahsoka travel to the Separatist capital. And I don't know what it is about that episode that I love so much. I think it's because you see both sides. The name of the episode is Heroes on Both Sides. And you just kind of see, like, growing up, watching movies, watching TV shows, we have the bad guys and the good guys, and it's so clear who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. And this is kind of trying to show you that it's a war. And, in every war, there's two sides. Every argument, there's two sides to the argument. And getting to understand their side, not just saying they're the bad guys, they're evil, actually seeing them and seeing their counsel and seeing, like, hey, not everyone who's a separatist is a bad person. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just as simple as like blue versus red, good versus evil. There's a lot of like middle ground here and a lot of opinionated stuff. And I love that episode because it just shows you that. And I always tell people, when I tell them like, oh, you should watch the Clone Wars, like any Star Wars fan that I have has never seen it, this is kind of the episode that I bring up a lot. It's like you get to see both sides of the separatists here, and you get to see stuff that the movies are not going to show you. The movies are going to show them as bad guys. Like even the characters that they put on the Separatist Council in the movies are just meant to be bad. Like Gunray, like Nate Gunray, like it's like the way he looks, like the red eyes and stuff, and like they're all evil looking. But in this, it's not about evil and good. It's about seeing both sides.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I want to get to one more arc we have to touch on here, which is probably one of the most famous arcs in the history of the show, which is the arc on Mortis, where we see Anakin learn about his destiny. I want to get around the panel before I get to me. So, Pete, thoughts on Mortis?
All right, so Mortis is a very interesting arc to me. And I want to piggyback on what Nick said about there's two sides to everything. Anakin Skywalker sees his fate because the dark side of the Force, the brother in the series, and his name escapes me, even though I just watched this episode probably yesterday. He turns to help him. We see it as it's evil, but he sees it as I don't want those things happening. Right? Good and evil are relative terms. What we think is good may not necessarily mean that's what they think is good. And I'm talking, of course, about fictional characters. So Anakin, who's somewhat maybe overly compassionate, and maybe that's his demise as a whole. I don't want to say compassion is his demise, but his caring for loved ones and his attachment to people ultimately is what brings Anakin down to fight Obi-Wan Kenobi in the third episode and become Darth Vader. This shows you that willingness to just change on a dime because he does not want to see himself be bad, even though it turns out that way anyway. I like the arc. it was a little long, in my opinion. I feel like maybe they could have shortened it a tad, but I still think there's a lot of character development in Anakin's character, even though he doesn't grow because he forgets after the father, the head guy wipes his memory. I still think there's a lot of character development there for the viewer because we can see how much anguish Anakin's in knowing what the future would hold for him.
All right, Nick, you go now. Give me your thoughts on Morris before I give mine.
Oh, Mike's ready to go.
Overall, I think the arc is okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. I see what they're doing. They're showing Anakin what could be. You're not going to leave that in his mind because then he'd literally be thinking that, and they might, they say like, if you know what's going to happen, you may avoid doing something kind of thing. So I get that and all that, but definitely too long of an arc. I think maybe a full episode too long. Maybe, you could have shortened it. And I have to say, I think this, as I said, an okay arc. And I think after this, the arcs get pretty poor, to be honest with you. And I think that's a problem this season has. And this show in general, up to this point, is that the orders of these episodes and keeping us engaged in the story is kind of just going all over the place. And it's hard to keep up with overall what's happening. And I really think this season should have ended with the final shot of the season being Darth Maul's face. And that would have been a nice cliffhanger into the next season. And I'm really getting a little tired of this stuff not being in chronological order, jumping around from arc to arc. And if I remember correctly, that stops moving forward, very little bit of that. And we're going to start seeing a cohesive story that goes in order. And we're going to start understanding it a little more and not jumping around everywhere. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, though. Mike, tell me your thoughts on the Mortis arc.
I hated the Mortis arc. Literally, I know that this is one of the most beloved arcs in the history of this show. I had so many problems with it. I will start off here. Number one, like we're in the spirit world, and the characters we come up with are father, son, and daughter. No characterization whatsoever. It's like daughter is good, son is bad, father is neutral, trying to manage the kids. I have seen a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender where they dive into the spirit world and they give you characters with names and backstories, and they can explain to you very well, like, oh, here's what happened and why they're here and why they're tormented. It's not just a cookie cutter of, oh, he's the Sith incarnate. If you had gotten a character like, and I saw there were stuff online, I read some of the notes about these arcs that there was talks about putting Darth Revan from the Knights of the Old Republic video game in here. If you put him in here as the representative of the dark side of the Force, it would have been much more intriguing because you have some backstory there as opposed to, oh, generic son who clearly looks evil. That's problem number one for me. And problem number two, I think I have a big issue with them just completely doing away with Anakin learning about his fate. I think it really kills the chance to develop the character bit because I think it would have been much more interesting story-wise to have him see what he could be and try and going back into the real world and say, okay, I know this could happen. I don't want to avoid it, and have him trying to steer away from the skid and having Palpatine pushing him back into it, manipulating him into the skid and sort of seeing the final destination kind of thing. Like no matter how you try to dodge your fate, it still comes to you. So I think that those are my two big problems with it.
Well, if I may jump in.
Sure.
I can't completely agree with you on your second point. The first point, yeah, just make a name. Just make a name. Give a backstory. It's not that difficult. They spent, 3 episodes on it? They had time to give a backstory. I completely agree with you on that. I don't know, though, when you talk about knowing your future or manipulating time, if you want to go deep into science or whatever, you can always change your future, right? If Anakin knows what's going to happen, does he become Darth Vader and restore the balance to the Force in episode 6? That's the point that I think is crucial in the character development, that you see how his will is super weak to stay away from it. And he's like, I'm going to go to the dark side because I don't want this to happen. He gets his mind wiped. So now he can do it again and actually fulfill his fate of overthrowing the Empire in episode 6. I feel like if he knew what was going to happen, and he stay on the dark side with Son, he would have just been a dark side person for the rest of eternity, and there would have been no overthrow of that power.
I think
because he was already too far gone. He was already too far gone by the middle of that episode. So it's like, how is he gonna, yeah, they'll overthrow the emperor, but the dark side will still be prominent because the son's gonna be the new emperor. That's my take on it.
I think there's a middle ground in there where you can show him what happens without showing him
everything.
What happens, showing him what could happen, maybe showing him something negative could happen. You could turn bad, more general sense, I guess. Instead of showing him, you're going to cut off Mace Windu's arm. Instead of showing him that exact situation, maybe there's a middle ground there. But I do tend to agree with Pete here. But I think you could make it like I think, Mike, you're about to say, is you don't have to show specific things, and then I agree with you.
Yeah, because I mean, that's a fair point where you don't want to show him the entire picture and say, okay, like maybe say, oh, this could happen to you. I think if you give him a little bit and sort of like maybe the son gives him a little bit of the picture and says, like, I can help you avoid what could come to you if you stay on my side. And he ends up, let's say for sake of the arc, he decides, I'm going to be stronger than this. I'm a Jedi. I'm going to reject the dark. He leaves. He knows I can be bad and he's trying to avoid it, but you have Palpatine in the background trying to manipulate him towards this path of being on the dark side. I think that's a more fun progression of the overall story than having it all wiped away in one episode.
Yeah. Also, actually he didn't direct these episodes, Filoni, but Dave Filoni is the guy behind this show. I don't know. I didn't watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I know he was involved in that show too. Did he do those episodes that you're referring to?
He was around that season.
So I wonder if he did both. Like, because I know he didn't direct these episodes of the Clone Wars, but I'm sure he was involved.
I mean, like, I'm sure this whole idea of a spirit world came from Avatar because I know he was there in season 1 where they introduced the concept and Aang goes into the spirit world. He runs into people like Ko, the face stealer, and the spirits of the past avatars, like stuff like that comes in there. I think doing with generic entities is not really satisfying.
Yeah, and also maybe you could have just switched it up. Like, it's how obvious is it that the guy is bad and the girl is good? That's like the most generic thing possible. Like, make the girl the bad guy.
Like, also, I mean, if we're doing cameos here, like, why couldn't we just have Qui-Gon be the good guy and then have somebody else be the bad guy?
It would have been a good situation to throw in someone from the old extended universe. I know back then,
you had Revan.
That's before the split, so it wasn't considered the legends back then. But you could have done Darth Revan in there, Darth Bane. Although, spoiler alert, Darth Bane does show up in this show, but they could have just thrown in another Sith from other material that we hadn't seen yet, or someone else instead of just son, daughter, and what was it, father?
Yeah, father.
Yeah, it's a little that's a little to me, honestly. The fact that you're like, you've seen the animation in this show. It's pretty expensive to make this show. Definitely not cheap. And I feel like you're putting all this money in and all this time, and it's a Star Wars show. I feel like you could do a little better than son and daughter.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the exact dichotomy of like the original Star Wars family unit because we don't have mother in the picture because remember Padme is not conceived like as a character until episode 1. We just have vague descriptions of her. So we had the father, the son, the daughter. So like this is literally just like ripped right out of George Lucas's playbook.
We have a description of her that Leia remembers her. She was very sad, even though we saw. I don't know how Leia would have remembered. She was about 6 minutes old when she died.
Well, that one will chalk that up to the Force, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, those are some of the big arcs I wanted to hit on. Let's go to some other stuff. Pete, give me your best arc or episode of the season.
The best arc for me has to be the Savage arc. I think that is such a fun arc to watch. Seeing Ventress get so pissed off that she wants to kill Dooku. And then it brings us to a terrific cliffhanger and setup to have Darth Maul in the picture. So I think that's my top arc of the season.
Nick, do you have the peace arc as your top arc?
I do. Same reasons. Literally, I mentioned earlier, I really wish this was the final arc of the season. I know we're watching it in terms of like, I'm gonna probably start watching season 4 by the end of the week. But how cool would it have been back then, 2010, 2011, to see Darth Maul's face and have to wait 3 months, be like, oh my God, is Darth Maul alive? At that point, 2011, we had known Darth Maul as being dead for 12 years. And we're sitting there like, is he alive? Oh my God. And we have to wait a couple months and then find out. Now, I don't like that it was in the middle of the season. I really don't. But it was still a great arc. And overall episode, though, I got to go with my my episode 10 with the heroes on both sides. I love that. I'm the only person who loves the politics in Star Wars.
No, this one was good. I think that's my favorite arc of the season. Is that arc where Padme tries to get the peace done. She comes very close to ending the Clone Wars in there. And then we see the right counter by Count Dooku to do it. I love the maneuvering there. That was my favorite arc. I'll throw an honorable mention out to the first 2 episodes of the season, the Clone Academy arc. I thought that was a lot of fun going in there, seeing this ragtag group of clones basically like actually come out against the odds, find a way to basically overcome like bad training of some sort and figure out a way to work together and beat the challenge and get shipped out to Clone Academy. I think also in the timeline is also off because I think these episodes happened before even season 1. So I think it's a mess, but fun episodes.
Yeah, I those are definitely, I was actually thinking about those episodes earlier today, and those are definitely by far, to this point at least, the best episodes that are centered around clones. Usually I don't really care that much. I'm just like, I don't really think, they're all the same. I know the point of the show is to try to show you that they're not the same, but they still are in my eyes. And this one kind of showed me that you have different personalities that can work together to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah, Pete, what did you think about that? I know it's been a while since you watched that one. What do you think about the first 2 arcs of the episodes with the Clone Academy?
It hasn't been that long. Yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed it. It does throw you for a loop though, because this happens before season 1 chronologically. So you have to kind of piece some stuff together, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think it was a great, I don't want to say homage to Bad Batch, but it kind of almost had like that kind of feeling of like, oh, they're not doing it the way they're supposed to. They're being conflicted. They're going to be, on cleaning duty for the rest of their assignment. So I think to see them overcome that kind of challenge together shows, like Nick was saying, there are personalities. There is a brotherhood within your squad, even though everyone's literally a clone of Jango Fett.
This is true. We'll go to the worst arc for a second here. I want to be bold here and assume we're all in agreement here. Spending 3 episodes to kill off Zero is by far the worst arc of the season.
Yes.
I agree. I'm going to be honest with you, the last 3 episodes of the Citadel,
yeah,
I don't think it should have been that long. Did need 3 episodes. The arc story-wise, Zero is definitely the LVP for arc, but that Citadel thing did not have to go 3 episodes at all.
The Zero arc, as my opinion, also is the worst just because, this shows you the problems with the continuity of the writers, the timeline here, because they show you him in prison, which is in season 3. Then we go back to remember season 1, the end of the finale, they break him out. So he's back in prison. Then he's broken out. Then he gets killed. So like this is basically the writer saying, we made a terrible character. We screwed up. We got to get rid of him quickly. So here we go.
Well, to be honest, though, how bad could it have been if at the end of the arc we no longer have to deal with Zero the Hutt?
It's true. Silver linings.
Yeah.
They did drag it out though quite a bit.
I mean, a lot of the arcs were dragged out.
Very satisfying to see Zero get shot.
Yeah. All right. So let's update some trackers here. As of the season, we have a couple of trackers going. Padme did not get captured again, so that tracker is still at 4.
Woo!
No Hondo this season. Hondo is still at 5 appearances total. So
we'll be getting Hondo back. And recently I booked my trip to Disney World. I'm going to go on the ride with Hondo too.
Yeah, you'll go on Smuggler's Run for us.
Oh yeah,
a sick ride.
Yeah,
so cool.
Going in November. It's got a while, but
all right. So Hondo will be there in spirit, and maybe next time we'll talk about him some more. We do have to finalize the Zero tracker. He is up to 5 appearances, and that's it. He is done.
5 and final.
Yeah, I think this is it's worthy of celebration. I think, Pete.
I wish it was a 1 and done kind of thing, not a 5 and done. But I'm glad we have 4 more seasons without him.
Yeah,
the majority rules on that one. 4 seasons without him, 3 seasons kind of with him. I'll take that.
Yeah, this is my feel. I mean, when we got the situation here, we got our zero is gone party.
Yep.
Very exciting stuff, honestly. Now Zero the Hutt. We got Asajj Ventress. What's she up to now? Do we know?
Not yet. I mean, she's floating around the universe.
We don't really know what's going on with her. We have Savage. Looking for Darth Maul. We have Ahsoka growing by the day, Anakin growing from a teen to a man. There's a lot going on, and I gotta mention real quick though, how much better was the animation this season?
Huge upgrade.
I believe there's 2 or 3 maybe upgrades in animation, and this was the first one. I think we get another one in season 5, and then another one on the last season, which the last season's animation is like perfect. Because I always wondered, you take a look at what Obi-Wan wears. He has like a half of a clone trooper outfit on. Like I always wondered why, and like what they're wearing. How come they don't wear what they wear in the movies? And then when you get to the last season, they're like, wait, yeah, why did we do this? So they make the characters just look exactly like they did in the movies in the last season, which is cool.
It was probably a budget thing, right? I mean, if you don't have a lot of money and you're rendering all this clone troopers, you might as well render Obi-Wan with like clone trooper pants on with just like a tunic on top. It just saves money, and the budget keeps going up depending on how much popularity the show has. So it makes sense that toward the end, the animation gets better, but also too the details get a lot better.
Also, you're closer to episode 3 now. So like when you're in that last season, you're running side to side with this, and that's why they look exactly like they look.
Yeah.
Also, Ahsoka gets a big beneficiary of the animation upgrade because she looks more like an actual character than like a cartoon.
Can I ask a question to you guys? Did I miss something that Ahsoka got her second lightsaber, or does that just appear?
I don't remember.
Is there any sort of mentioning or any sort of story that says that she gets her second lightsaber and now she's training with not 1 but 2 lightsabers?
I did not see that.
Because this season, all of a sudden, 2 lightsabers was like, whoa, okay, Ahsoka. All right, we're gonna play that game.
Like, I always thought of her as having 2. I never even remembered that she it just showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just randomly. I'm like, okay, like I mean, kudos, like go for it, girl. But like, I thought I missed something. I was like, wait, was there like a storyline I fell asleep on where like she got her second lightsaber and decided I'm going to start training with 2 lightsabers?
I think they messed something up in the season, but I think they fixed it relatively in the show. But I think they fixed it relatively quickly, as in they fixed it at the beginning of this season. Ahsoka in the show the show runs over the course of 3 years. She's 14, 15, and 16. I think she looked like she was 11 in the movie or in the show, the first couple seasons. And now I think she looks like she's like 16. And yeah, only like a year has passed so far in the show, and she's aged like 5 years. So I think that was a mistake on their point, but I think they fixed it pretty quickly because she definitely did not look like she looked like a little kid. And now she's looking like a teenage girl. So they kind of messed it up, but I think they fixed it quick enough that I don't think it's that big of a deal.
All right, let's get to the MVP and LVP rating. We're sort of taking a look here at track. Like, who are the best and worst characters of the show as the seasons go on? We have a little thing going here of a MVP leaderboard. Anakin and Obi-Wan at the top. They are +5 each. Cad Bane is +2. Jar Jar +1. Mace Windu +1. They are in the positives. Padme is at 0. She is leveled out, so she is literally the middle of the list. Then we have Ahsoka -1 point. Luminara Unduli -1 point. Zero the Hutt -2. Palpatine -3. And the investigator douche from season 2 -3. They're on the bottom of the board. We'll go around the horn here. Start with MVP. So, Pete, who's your first MVP of the season?
Cy Snoodles for finally offing 0. I am so happy. No, that'll be like a joke one. So actually, my MVP of the season is Ahsoka Tano. I think we see great leaps in her training. Again, dual lightsaber out of nowhere. She's teaching some kids on Mandalore. Orchestrates that whole plot thing going on with the rations of food and the prime minister. The last part of this season, which could have been a filler, could have been a setup for the next season to show how strong she is, where she's in Star Wars Hunger Games. She gets captured and she's able to, without a lightsaber, fight off and plan attacks with a group of people on her own without her master there. If we remember, Ahsoka Tano had a lot of trouble making decisions with her cadets or her troops or whatever you like to call it. Now she's being very definitive. So I'm going to give her the MVP for this season.
All right. So, Nick, who's your first MVP of season 3?
So I have 3. Do you want me to give you them all now?
One at a time. Well, let's go around the horn.
Okay.
First thing.
I'm also going to give 1 point to Ahsoka, and I have nothing to add to exactly what Pete said. She's grown. That's all I can say.
All right. My first MVP of the season, I'm giving Padme a point here because Padme almost ended the Clone Wars. That alone, I mean, It's not her fault that factors beyond her control basically ripped the peace element out of her hands, but she goes to the separatist world. She back channels against regulations from the Senate. She comes within about 3 minutes of ending the Clone Wars. So that gets an MVP point in my book.
Yeah, she did.
Nope.
She's always been in the movies too. Always been looking for peace, looking for liberty. This is, her famous line. This is how liberty dies. She's always been trying to end the war, not extend the war. And she almost did.
All right, Pete, second MVP.
Yeah, my second MVP goes to Padme. That was a great segue, Mike. She, like you said, almost single-handedly ends the Clone Wars by going to the Separatist capital and speaking to the enemy, which is very frowned upon, by the way, on the Republic. So she made a huge risk with Ahsoka Tano. So all the more reason that Ahsoka Tano gets my MVP for number one. But yeah, so Padme gets a point as my second MVP for this season.
Nick, your second MVP is?
Anakin. I don't think he did anything specific to deserve the point. I just think his character is becoming more and more likable as time goes on. And if you'd only seen the movies, we've talked about this countless times now. You only see the movies. When he turns in episode 3, you don't really care that much. I'm starting to feel for the character more. And yeah, that's really all I can say is Anakin is becoming someone that I feel for him when he turns. I feel as the tragedy of Darth Vader more so than just this guy turned bad. And this show is just every episode that he's in, it just proves it more and more that he's becoming less of a whiny brat and more of a man.
All right. My second MVP, I'm going to go to somebody we haven't honored yet. I'm giving Plo Koon a point. I feel like he had a very, very good season. I mean, he's basically the number 3 Jedi on the Council Order behind Yoda and Mace Windu. He's doing lots of good stuff. He's helping out in the battles. He gives Ahsoka like the cover to go on the mission to the Citadel. Good year for Plo Koon. He gets an MVP.
I always thought, and you're right. He said he's like third in command in the council, right?
Yep.
And I always thought, and this show definitely goes against that the third in command was Ki-Adi-Mundi, the guy with the crazy head, because he always sat like Yoda sat here. Mace was on one side, he was on the other, always. And I always thought he was. But then in this show, especially in this season, you could tell that Plo is third in command. So I wonder what the continuity error, they just didn't care, or they just wanted Plo Koon to have more time. I don't know. Maybe he's a more likable character than Ki-Adi-Mundi is. So,
all right, Pete, your final MVP is?
Final MVP is Anakin. I kind of liked seeing that weakness to him. The reason why he's an MVP is because it brings that much more information to me about his character, makes me appreciate more about the troubles he's really going through in his head. So I'm going to give him that point.
All right. Nick, your last MVP is?
Savage.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, it's one of my boys. He's awesome. He's one of the coolest characters. I mean, we talked about earlier. He's Darth Maul on roids. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's a good call there. My last one. I'm gonna go give Dooku an MVP point for basically finding a way to undo Padme nearly in the Clone Wars by staging this stealth attack and using vacuum robots to basically blow up half of Coruscant and set this back. I know he handles the Asajj Ventress thing poorly, but I think he still has a job because he managed to sabotage that piece. So Count Dooku gets the last MVP from me.
Dooku's a good character, and I don't think they explored him enough in the movie. And you couldn't. He was only in a movie and 10 minutes of another movie, so you didn't have time to do it. But it's nice to see more on him because he's a very good character.
All right, now the fun comes because I feel like I had a very hard time narrowing down the LVPs. I felt there were so many characters who had bad seasons. So, Nick, I'll let you go first here. Who is your first LVP?
0.
No explanation needed.
It's my last chance to throw 0 in here, so I had to make sure he gets a point. And I really just could not be happier to see someone go.
Pete.
I mean, do I have to say it?
0.
0.
All right. My first one, and since we're rounding up on the bad characters, I'm going to throw on the investigator douche's pile because he's in here for one episode. I don't know how you possibly miss the fact that Greedo kidnaps these senators' children. And he just didn't, even though his job is to investigate, he did not turn over the statue and find Greedo's blood on it. It took the senator himself to go find his children. So investigator douche gets whacked again. LVP point for me.
Okay.
Nick, yeah. Nick, who is your second LVP?
I had a lot of trouble thinking of one. A lot. I really couldn't think of one at all. So I'm gonna go with Obi-Wan for the pure reason that he just didn't do anything. I don't think it's his fault. I just think nothing happened with Obi-Wan the whole season.
That's a fair.
I have nothing to say that he did positively. So I just by default, I just think he's an LVP.
That's a fair. I mean, Pete, we didn't talk about him once.
Yeah, we didn't mention him yet.
Oh,
Pete, who's your second LVP?
So I want to say the father in the whole Mortis arc.
You can if you want.
Only because he's like, I shouldn't have brought you here. Like, aren't you supposed to be this powerful? Like, know the Force. Like, the Force runs through you. Like, you didn't know that doing this was gonna make things worse, and you just expected Anakin to drop everything and be like, "You're gonna stay here. You're gonna make sure that my son and daughter don't fight." You know, like, it bothered me. The whole thing bothered me. He seemed like a fool, even though he's like this all powerful
wizard,
force bearing wizard. Yeah, like it just didn't make any sense to me. So I got to give him an LVP point.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I stayed away from that Morris arc because I was just so mad about it. I didn't want to just ding anybody. I thought it was I'll get to why in a minute, but I'm giving an LVP to the one guy we didn't mention yet, Grand Moff Tarkin. Soon to be right now, just Captain Tarkin. He such an awful character in this season. And I mean, he gets captured, yes, but he spends the entire rescue whining. He's insulting Ahsoka and these Jedi who are coming to rescue him. And the issue I have here is that like he's incredibly whiny. He's not offering a plan of his own to help. And I know says, oh, like he's Tarkin, he's evil and all that, but at the same time, Anakin and Ahsoka are what, like 19 and 16 respectively. He is 40 or roughly in this. And you said the fact that Peter Cushing got 65 when he plays him in episode 4. He's 40. He's whining more than the teenagers. So that's an automatic LVP from Tarkin.
Do you think that as I'm trying to grasp my head around why this is the case, because I agree with you. I always agreed with you. Like when you said that, I just, we all know him from even Rogue One, the way he was. Do you think it's on purpose to make him very annoying so he's not liked? Because to this point, most of the characters from the original trilogy that are on the Empire side, which would be Anakin and the Chancellor, Emperor, and now Tarkin. Anakin, we know, is Anakin now. He hasn't made that turn to Vader yet. And we look at the Chancellor like kind of like squinted at him, like, I know what you're up to kind of thing. Tarkin's the only guy. Are we supposed to view him as a good guy? Because he's on the good side right now. So I feel like maybe make him really hateable because he hasn't done anything wrong yet to be a villain, but he is a villain. So maybe just make it so everyone hates him. So that way, when the original trilogy comes about, you don't have any sympathy for him because you're not supposed to have any sympathy for him.
The thing also, I feel like Peter Cushing plays him as like very smarmy. He's sort of like,
yes,
like a very cocky, very like, I got this plan figured out. You got nothing figured out. Like
that's true. They could have made him cocky.
Yeah, like he would have like, because I mean, they say like, you have better plans. Like, no, I don't. It's like you could have like given him his own plan, had it failed, and had the Jedi have to save his butt. That would have made him more redeemable than him just whining. Oh, you have nothing going on. Why am I following you guys? Like,
yeah, you could have made him like a whiny, annoying, cocky guy.
Yeah.
Instead, they made him whiny, annoying,
useless,
with like no confidence guy.
Yeah.
Could it be that this is the turning point of Tarkin, and that's why he's whining and he has no confidence in the Republic?
He makes it very clear he's an ally with Palpatine the whole way, though.
But he makes it clear that he's an ally of the Chancellor. Maybe he thinks, because let's say he's chumming with the Chancellor, and the Chancellor saying the same thing ideas that Tarkin is saying. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get a victory unless you're aggressive, and everyone is not being aggressive. Maybe this is him saying, you know what, I give up. I'm done. I'm not appreciative. You're not doing what I think you're supposed to be doing to win this war. So I'm going to be a whiny little brat, and I'm going to go run to the Chancellor and tell them, well, I told them to do this and they didn't do it. So I don't care.
At the same time, Yeah.
Are we seeing that turning point in him where he's like, I don't think we're doing this the right way, so I'm going to start leaning toward maybe a different approach, which could switch him to a separatist or
the Empire eventually,
an Empire mindset?
My issue with this is, again, the age factor here, because we know what Peter Cushing is supposed to be. He's supposed to end up as Peter Cushing, 65, confident, like smarmy dude. He behaves worse than the teens who are on the Jedi, and the teens could easily be whining. So that's my issue with Tarkin.
So Tarkin is, as you mentioned, he's like 40, 42, 43 in this show.
Yeah.
So you would think any personality changes probably would have happened already.
Yeah.
Maybe he's hiding behind the fact that he doesn't have any good ideas.
I still give him the LVP. I'm not changing my mind on
that. Oh, no. That's fair.
All right. Nick, your final LVP is going to who?
Man, I hate to say it, but Chewbacca. I was very excited.
Wow.
I was very excited to see Chewbacca in the show. I love Chewbacca. I think I told you, Mike, off the air. Everyone likes Chewbacca. Everyone does. He's no one's favorite character, but no one dislikes Chewbacca. He's always he's always up there, but he didn't do anything. And they made such a big deal that it was Chewbacca, and it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like, what's his name? And it was like Chewbacca, and then I went to commercial break, and he did nothing.
No, he just tags along.
He was just there. I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess it's not his fault, but like he didn't do anything. I feel like half of my LVPs or 2/3 of my LVPs are just because the characters didn't do anything. Not that they did anything wrong. I could have easily thrown the father or son or in there, but these characters I was excited for. Like, I'm excited to see more out of Obi-Wan this whole show. Not that I'm excited to see more Chewie, but seeing Chewie was exciting, and I got nothing out of it.
All right, Pete, your last LVP is going where?
My last LVP has to probably go to Obi-Wan. Like Nick said, just probably pure fact that just nothing really happens with him. There's no development of his character. Any action that he's in is with someone else. It's shared, I mean, he doesn't really have any spotlight in this season, in my opinion. And he doesn't come off as this like great negotiator. He's just kind of there for the ride for this season. I'm assuming that'll change in seasons to come, and that's not going to be Obi-Wan's role for the rest of the series. But just like Nick was saying, the pure fact that just nothing goes on with that character is he gets the last LVP point for me.
Mike, let me jump in. Sorry to cut you off. I have to change my answer because I forgot about this guy, the Jedi Master Peel.
Yeah, the one who dies.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. The arc I didn't like. He doesn't bring anything to the table. I said it 3 times already. That should not have been your final or next to final arc. Your final arc should have been Darth Maul, and it really gets me annoyed because every other show we watch, you watch The Mandalorian, you watch whatever it is, WandaVision. No other show has the episodes out of order. No other show has the first 3 seasons. You have to go on a website to find out exactly what order you're watching it in. No other show has 2-3 episodes here, then 2-3 episodes that have nothing to do with it. Then you go back to those same characters, and it's like nothing ever happened 3 episodes ago. And I'm happy that we're moving on to season 4 because this is gonna end. If I just looked at it online, I believe there's no more out of order. But I'm tired of this out of order stuff, and this guy being your final arc and being the death. Like, I'm supposed to care. What was he in? One scene in episode 1 in the background? Yeah. So change my answer from Chewbacca to Jedi Master Peel.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because this sets me up nice for my last LVP because there were so many different things I was thinking about. Like, could I go give another point to investigator douche? Should I finally ding Zero myself? Could I let you two do all the work on that one for a while? Dinging these random characters. And then one day it just came to me in a vision, sort of like the Force stream here. My last LVP is going to the writers of the show because
of course,
all of these problems are on their feet. They are the reason why we have to skip around in time with the Zero arc. They did a poor job with Morris, in my opinion. They placed the timing of the episodes, as Nick said, in the wrong order. All these things on season 3, my fault. It goes to the writers. The writers' room flunked us this season. They get the last LVP from me.
Shots fired.
Let me bring something up. See if you agree. Do you think Now, I don't know if this is not a defense. This is not a criticism of anything. This is just a question that I, would like to hear both of your answers on. Do you think this show just came to be as like, let's do a little fun, little Saturday morning cartoon? I don't know. I actually don't know what day it aired when it was on, but like a Saturday morning cartoon and just with some Star Wars elements in there, throw some arcs around, and we'll just see what happens. And then when we get to the point we're at now, they were like, wait a minute, this show's actually picking up. People actually like this thing. Why don't we like make a little story out of it? Do you think that that's what happened?
That's possible because it sort of explains why the continuity issues go away in season 4, where they sort of say, oh, we're going to tell a straight line story, not bounce all over the place. I think that makes more sense. I think also, though, the problem is like they had a lot of bad ideas in the season. I think that's where my big issue comes in. It's like
Oh yeah, no, I'm not debating your issue. Just in general, do you think maybe that they didn't think anything of this show, thought of it as just like a little idea that could make some money and just keep kids entertained? And it was like, wait, we actually have something going here. We can do a lot of stuff here.
It kind of feels a little bit to me. It's almost like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ish, where they're like, oh, this is fun. It's for kids. We'll just do all these random things. And then like, I remember like I watched the first couple of seasons. The third one's like, oh, we're actually gonna try and tell you a coherent story now because people take it a little more seriously. So I think kind of a little bit like that.
Yeah, hopefully that's. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We know what happens. I mean, at least I know what happens next. But you definitely see that. I definitely think that that's a possibility.
To add to this, just from an industry point of view, I think because they knew they were making this for a younger crowd, a cartoon animated series, that could be appearing at what channel was this on when it was,
Cartoon
when
Network.
it was on?
Cartoon Network.
So it was on Cartoon Network. Remember that reruns are a thing.
Yeah.
They had to make not only small story arcs, but also small contained episodes that if it was played out of order on a Saturday morning, 3 or 4 episodes in a row, and you catch the last episode or whatever, you can still kind of enjoy and understand what's going on. And that's the feel I get so far. I get the feel of I can watch this episode as a Star Wars fan. I can understand it and keep with it. As a kid, though, that not knowing the story arc, I can just watch it as like, okay, it's keeping me occupied. There's some action. There's some dialogue. I don't know who this Ahsoka Tano person is. Who's Anakin? Never saw Star Wars. Like, I think that's what was happening. And then to Nick's point, they said, okay, people that watch Star Wars religiously and want story behind it are actually looking at this and going, we want more. We want more lore. We want more information of what happens between episodes 2 and 3. And they probably go, okay, we have the budget now. Let's make it a season-long story arc instead of 3 or 4 different random arcs in different spots in different chronological orders that would just keep, the average viewer of Cartoon Network entertained.
Yeah, we're still gonna get those mini arcs to the season, but I think they're gonna start
flowing,
making more sense and flowing. And just for reference, so I know you had asked Pete what channel it was on. Seasons 1 to 5 were on Cartoon Network. Season 6 was a Netflix original, and then season 7 was Disney Plus.
Okay, so to wrap up our stuff here on the annual trackers, on the monthly trackers here, season rankings. So far, we basically got in chronological order, where season 2 is the best, then season 1, then the movie. I think we're all in agreement that he's better than the movie in season 1. The question is here, do we put this ahead of season 2 or below season 2?
Nick, if you don't mind, I'll go first. Can I tie it?
You can tie it if you want.
Only because I feel like there was a lot of elements of season 3 that were important, but I don't know if it's better than season 2. And I don't know if I can rank it under season 2 because there was a lot of problems with season 2 as well. So like, I kind of want to tie it for first right now. We're seasons 2 and 3 and then season 1 and then the movie.
Yeah. I would put it below season 2. I think it should be there because I think there's more misses in season 3 and they took some swings.
That's fair.
They missed on a lot of things. Like,
that's fair.
I'm digging the writers as a whole. I can't put season 3 ahead of season 2 when I'm digging the writers. So that's my personal rationale. Nick, do you want to break the tie here?
Yeah, I will. I'll put 3 above solely because we're starting to set up. This only comes from my opinion. Really, only mattered in this sense because I've already seen seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7, knowing what happened in this season and what it means for the future of the show with Savage Press and Ventress and whatever else there is. I have to say that they set up more in this season to make it so, honestly, I feel like if you didn't see seasons 1 or 2 and you just picked up the show at 3, the whole thing would make sense. There's very few things that wouldn't make sense to you in the final seasons. But if you didn't see 3, you wouldn't understand the rest of the show. And I think that those little episodes we had in Mandalore, and especially the episodes we had at Dathomir, are crucial to the show.
Okay, so basically based on the math, we're gonna leave Pete's gonna be the tiebreaker. We're gonna put them tied right now at the top.
Yep.
All right.
So
all fair points though. Honestly, all fair points. I just couldn't, like, in fair conscience, put one above the other.
I want to tie it too, because the Mandalore arc from last season kind of equals the Dathomir arc from this season, and actually I think they took place at the same time in the season too, which is weird. But but I think there's just more important stuff in this season, so I had to
Makes
put them
sense.
up.
It's fair.
So we'll put them in a tie here. That's all for season 3. Next month, season 4 battle lines. Nick, I know we have probably some Darth Maul coming here. What else you got for us to look forward to?
Finally, I believe the main reason a lot of us, and not just us, I'm sure there's other people out there who are either listening or maybe they have no idea the podcast even exists, but they're doing the same thing. Started watching this show after The Mandalorian, and one of those reasons was Bo-Katan. And we're going to meet her, and that's exciting.
All right, that's going to be fun. And I will say we're going to watch season 4. It's going to be out around Star Wars Day, May the 4th, because there's a new show coming out, as P. Lou's here. The Bad Batch is dropping. So in addition to our season 4 coverage, we will talk about the premiere of The Bad Batch in our next podcast record. So that should be fun.
Very excited.
I can't wait for that. That's like a spiritual successor to the Clone Wars, if you will. Sequel, kind of, actually, technically, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to watch that episode, give you our thoughts on that. We will touch on that in between Clone Wars and Rebels. And we'll touch, because that point the whole season will have been aired. So we'll have covered all that for you.
Sounds good to me. I'm excited.
All right, let's wrap everything up here. I want to thank you guys for coming on. Before I let you go, let's plug some social media. Pete, how do you find on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at PJ Consadori29. Been a little bit better with the content there. Actually making my own tweets instead of a lot of retweets. So be excited to see that. So go ahead and follow me on there if you want.
All right. And as usual, Nick is not giving out his handle yet. He will follow you, though, if you leave your
comments. Not yet. It's coming soon, though. Just, leave your...
Big things are happening in the future. Big things happen in the future. Nick's going to drop the Twitter handle. You better be listening. Better be listening for that.
We have a big plan coming with the Twitter, and excited to unleash it to the audience.
All right. So that's a tease to stick with the Sky Guys. We had season 4. Thanks again for coming on, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thank you.